With the Oscars right around the corner, it's time that we look back at some of the best movies of the past year. 2015 was a great year for movies. We saw new films from our favorite directors like Robert Zemeckis, Quentin Tarantino, Ridley Scott, and Steven Spielberg. We also saw some directors make a comeback like M. Night Shyamalan, who gave us The Visit, which was honestly a step back in the right direction for him.
Would you mind getting inside the oven to clean it?
The blockbusters were enormous as well. Mad Max Fury Road, The Avengers, Inside Out, Jurassic World, and do I even need to mention Star Wars? Though I enjoyed most of the blockbusters this year, today I'm here to talk about the little guys. These are the movies that flew under people's radar but were still pretty damn good. None of these movies got any recognition from the Academy nor any real commercial success, but I think they deserve to be remembered just as much as the more successful movies last year. I would try to avoid spoiling any major plot points and only go as far as the trailers for the movies do. Without any further ado, these are my top 10 underrated movies of 2015. Number 10, Southpaw. Kicking it off is probably the most well-known movie on the list due to it starring Jake Gyllenhaal in the leading role, as well as great performances from side characters played by the likes of Forest Whitaker, Rachel McAdams, and 50 Cent. The story follows a boxer named Billy Hope who starts the movie as the champion. A lot of things go wrong for him and he loses everything. And when I say everything, I really mean everything.
It'll be a year before your suspension is up for review, which means zero income.
This to me was already different, as most boxing movies like Rocky and Raging Bull are more of an underdog story with the main character trying to achieve greatness at the end. With this movie, he was already on top when it started, so instead of him trying to achieve greatness, he is striving for redemption. While it is as inspirational as boxing movies tend to be, it is also a story about coping with the pain of loss and the mental pressure of being a famous athlete. One scene in particular demonstrates this perfectly. It's just him screaming into a bed with a gun next to him. One of the best things about this movie is they use the actual HBO boxing announcers who make each fight look and feel as if you were watching it on pay-per-view.
Jones, the longer, quicker fighter, has appeared to win most of the rounds to this point in the fight.
Two reasons this movie was genuinely forgotten about was that it came out in theaters only a week after Jurassic World, and we all know how popular that movie was. The second and probably biggest reason was that it was severely overshadowed by the movie Creed. It was a spin-off to the already successful Rocky franchise and carried a much more positive tone than this movie and had way less box office competition, only really competing with Victor Frankenstein and Krampus.
It's Christmas. Nothing bad's gonna happen on Christmas.
When the dust settles, I think this movie will be remembered fondly as a great sports movie, but for now, the only recognition it has is the number 10 spot on the list. Number 9, Little Boy. When I saw this movie, I really liked it. Most of the time when I enjoy a movie to a certain extent, I'll look online to see what other people thought of it as well. And honestly, I was pretty shocked to find that this movie had been met with mostly negative criticism on Rotten Tomatoes. It was one of the few times where the audience score was much higher than the critic score. The story takes place during World War II and is about a little boy whose father gets drafted to war. He then tries everything he can, from faith to superstition, to make sure that his dad comes home safe. Along the way, he befriends a Japanese man who is being discriminated against by everyone in the town because of his race. This is a very true take on reality because around the time of Pearl Harbor, this kind of discrimination was really happening. The lead actor in the movie does a phenomenal job. This was his first leading role and he really hits the mark. When a movie relies on a child actor as the lead, it can often be met with negativity if the performance isn't believable. But this kid is truly a great actor and does a great job carrying the story along.
Why can't we stay together?
Partner, I have to go.
I don't want you to go.
The biggest complaint the movie gets is that it tries to fit in too many morals and the tone is never really consistent. It starts off as this heartfelt, adventurous coming-of-age story, but ultimately turns into a rather heavy story of acceptance. The movie also does have a very religious undertone, so a lot of people were turned off by it, but I still don't see how that could warrant so much disliking from critics. When I finished the movie, I had similar feelings when I watched movies like The Goonies and The Sandlot. Just a feel-good story that was made for kids but good enough to be enjoyed by adults. Number 8, The Gift. Joel Edgerton writes, directs, and stars in this movie about a couple played by Jason Bateman and Rebecca Hall. They move into a new house and run into a creepy guy they used to go to high school with, played by Joel Edgerton.
Gordo?
Hey.
Wow, buddy, I did not recognize you. Gordon Mosley.
As time goes on, tons of facts are revealed about each character's past to help bring the plot together nicely. From the trailer, The Gift looks like your average thriller movie using all the stereotypes you'd expect. While it really was by the numbers, it does it in a way that really seemed fresh. While not a lot happens in the movie, the story does a great job of building tension to the point where it feels like a knife is slowly being pushed into your stomach the more you find out about each character.
2005, breaking and entering de facto's residence. Attempted abduction of a minor. Discharged from the United States military August 14, 2004.
All the characters are well written and perform just as good. Each of these characters is damaged in their own way and have their own demons that they have battled with at some point in their lives, especially Bateman's character. While he is normally known for being a comedic actor, he really shows his acting chops and gives a great dramatic performance.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Who you are is your own fault. It's got nothing to do with me. Okay? If you ever come near me or my family again, I will destroy you. Do you understand?
Edgerton gives a great performance as well. Since he wrote and directed the movie, he really had no one telling him how to play his own character, but he does a great job at staying humble to the story and not trying to outshine any of the other actors, and it really shows. This was the first movie he wrote and directed, and we have seen in the past with actors like Ben Affleck that making the transition from actor to director can be a great move. Hopefully this movie puts Joel Edgerton on a similar path. Number 7, Soaked in Bleach. 2015 saw the release of several documentaries, so I figured I would have to throw one on here since there were so many great ones. Some of them were to raise awareness on current issues looming worldwide like Cartel Land and The Hunting Ground.
First few weeks, I made some of my best friends, but 2 of us were sexually assaulted before classes had even started.
Others look to tell us intriguing tales from the past, like the 5-7 and What Happened to Miss Simone.
I choose to reflect the times and the situations in which I find myself. How can you be an artist and not reflect the time?
And for a great documentary focusing on an individual person, I would highly recommend Iris.
You're not pretty, and you'll never be pretty, but it doesn't matter. You have something much better. You have style.
However, in terms of being overlooked, there is no better pick for a documentary than Soaked in Bleach. The death of Nirvana lead singer and music legend Kurt Cobain is one of the most controversial stories of all time. Controversy can often generate attention, as evidenced by how many other documentaries, books, and conspiracy theories have been published about the subject. Seriously, just Google Kurt Cobain death and marvel at all the wild results. So what makes this one any different, you ask? Soaked in Bleach is told through the eyes of Tom Grant, a private investigator hired by Courtney Love herself to investigate the few days leading up to the death of Kurt Cobain.
And it was a woman's voice on the other end, kind of a raspy, low voice.
Now, if someone is unlawfully using your credit cards, maybe the police are the better people to call.
And then she said, well, you know, my husband and I are kind of famous.
Using a combination of reenacting crucial moments of the investigation as well as actual audio recordings from conversations between Grant, Love, and several other important people surrounding the case, Soaked in Bleach does a great job telling a different side of the story with as much realism as it possibly can.
And actually people will believe me if I deny it, if I say he left, and when he left I got very depressed and had to be hospitalized for some sort of nervous breakdown. Then it appeared that I attempted suicide.
That way, there's no drugs involved, and the sympathy goes to me. I mean...
How's that first end?
It is done in such a way that breathes new life back into the case, as the filmmakers themselves have started a petition to get the case reopened for examination.
Should the case be reopened, my answer is unequivocally, unhesitatingly, yes.
If you feel like you already know the story of what happened, this documentary will make you reconsider what you thought you knew. Number 6, What We Do in the Shadows. Speaking of documentaries, this film is a comedic mockumentary about a couple of vampires living together in a house.
So it's 6 p.m. in the nighttime, which is when I wake up. This is always a really scary part for me. Yes! Nighttime.
Hollywood has seen its share of great vampire movies in the past decade, like Only Lovers Left Alive, but for every Let the Right One In, there is also a Twilight.
This is what I am.
This is probably one of the best vampire movies made in the last 10 years. It is as much a satirization of vampires as it is a celebration of them. We do see them do typical vampire stuff like feasting on human blood and turning into bats, but we also see them go through normal problems like arguing about chores around the house.
I do my flat chores.
No, you don't.
No, yes, I do.
That's
why we're having the flat meeting.
The point is, Deacon, that you have not done the dishes for 5 years.
Vladislav is right. It's unacceptable to have so many bloody dishes all over this bench like that.
Each character has a unique personality because they became vampires at different points in history. There's the a recently turned vampire who's into social media and current styles.
The neighbors can see you flying around the house. You want to draw attention to this house,
You've got a whole documentary crew following you around.
Then there's the old school Nosferatu style vampire who's been alive for several thousand years.
Hey, listen, we're just having a flat meeting upstairs in about 10 minutes. You don't have to come, but I thought I'd extend an invitation to you just in case.
The movie isn't very big story-wise, as the whole thing kind of feels like a bunch of skits loosely tied together, but it works well as the actors do a great job of engulfing themselves in the characters. This movie is very commonly compared to This Is Spinal Tap, a mockumentary in the 80s about a fictional rock band who struggles to find success.
If you can see, the numbers all go to 11.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
In both movies, the characters are interesting, likable, and genuinely funny, so I can see where people would make the connection. This movie was written by the same guys who created the HBO show Flight of the Conchords, and if you're a fan of that show, then you will love this movie, as it has a lot of the same type of humor. But even if you aren't a fan of that show, you'll enjoy the movie anyway. Number 5, Dope. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie and being immediately excited for it, as I'm a big fan of 90s hip-hop and 90s culture. Naturally, I thought others would be just as excited as I was, but I was surprised when practically nobody had heard of this movie. It did really well at Sundance and was met with critical acclaim and actually received the widest release of any Sundance movie, and yet almost no one went to see it.
This here, this is creative. This shows that I'm different.
The story follows a high school kid named Malcolm who lives in one of the roughest neighborhoods in Los Angeles. His only dream in life is to go to Harvard. When he decides to go to a drug dealer's party, he gets mixed up in all the wrong kinds of trouble.
Minds get flooded, ejaculation right on the 2-inch tape. The abstract
Last night at the fucking party. At the party. Don put that shit in my bag. Had to be.
The three main characters give great performances and feel really original. I especially like Shameik Moore as Malcolm. Believe it or not, this was his first time being in a movie, and he did an outstanding job.
I could write about the typical, I'm from a poor, crime-filled neighborhood, raised by a single mother, don't know my dad, blah, blah. It's cliche.
It's the kind of performance that really opens up a door for an actor, similar to when John Boyega was in Attack the Block. It was his first performance as well, and just look where he is now. Dope is also a very smart movie. It was made for a pretty wide audience, but appeals especially to a very certain demographic. It references bitcoins, internet memes, and even popular scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson.
If Neil deGrasse Tyson was writing about Ice Cube, this is what it would look like.
Another thing I like about this movie is that the three main characters have their own punk rock band called Oreo. This movie is riddled with 90s hip hop as the characters are all obsessed with it, but hearing the band perform punk songs puts a very nice mix to the already awesome soundtrack.
First day in school, good grades are cool, trying to find a new way to roll, and land a new major boo.
I was expecting at least one of the 4 songs to get a nomination for Best Original Song from the Academy, but of course they chose more contemporary songs like Writings on the Wall from Spectre. While it may not take you back to the 90s in the way that Straight Outta Compton did, it will still make you reminisce about the time when the Backstreet Boys and Furbies were all the rage. Number 4, Tangerine. Shot entirely on an iPhone, Tangerine follows 2 transgender prostitutes on Christmas Eve as they go about their day in Hollywood, more specifically the corner of Highland and Santa Monica Boulevard, which for anyone who lives in Los Angeles is a well-known spot for all kinds of illegal and shady transactions. The movie begins with our 2 characters in a donut shop as one of them has just been released from county jail to find out that her pimp, which is also her boyfriend, has been cheating on her.
All men cheat. That's why they're called trade. Do them just as dirty as they do us. Out here, it is all about our hustle, and that's it. What are you plotting?
They spend the rest of the movie looking for him and the girl he was cheating with. Besides a side plot involving a taxi driver who has a crush on one of the prostitutes, that's pretty much all that happens. While some people said that not a lot happened in this movie, I made the argument that a lot more happened than they thought. This movie does a great job of showcasing but not exploiting a very controversial subject. While Hollywood has only recently been more accepting of the transgender community with characters like Rayon portrayed by Jared Leto from Dallas Buyers Club and Lily portrayed by Eddie Redmayne from The Danish Girl, this movie shows transgender characters played by transgender actors. It is not only important for equality, but highlights one of the more taboo subcultures in America and does it in a way that is heartfelt and never feels demeaning or condescending, and that is more than enough to land it the number 4 spot on this list. Number 3, 99 Homes. Andrew Garfield and Michael Shannon star in this gripping and brutally honest story about the 2010 housing crisis. Michael Shannon's character works with the bank to evict people from their houses, renovate them, and sell them for profit. Andrew Garfield plays a single father struggling to work hard for a living as he is supporting his son as well as his mother, played by Laura Dern. The two characters meet when Garfield gets evicted from his home, and it is done in an unfair nature. The bank tells Garfield that he has 90 days, but when Shannon comes knocking on the door, he only gives him 2 minutes.
2 minutes to pack whatever belongings you need, cash, checkbook, medicine, anything that you need. Yeah, this is happening.
While technically not illegal, it was something that was happening to people in real life during the time. Garfield needs work and is offered a job by Shannon, and from there the movie takes you on a roller coaster of emotions as eventually Garfield starts evicting people from their homes.
Well, you done honest work your whole life building homes. What'd that get you but me knocking at your door?
Are we stealing? Is this stealing?
Well, in 2006, you borrowed $85,000 against your home and never paid it back, Nash. You telling me that's not stealing?
The two lead actors are fantastic. Andrew Garfield gives the best performance of his career. All this guy wants is to get his house back, and he is such a warm and kind person that you just want to see him succeed. Michael Shannon doesn't disappoint as the cold, greedy villain to perfectly contradict Garfield's character.
You go to church?
Sure.
Only 1 in 100's gonna get on that ark, son. And every other poor soul's gonna drown. I'm not gonna drown.
This movie can also get very dark at times. There's a scene in particular where Garfield moves into a crappy motel and sees a bunch of other families that have all been thrown out of their homes as well. You see the sadness in their faces and the realization of Garfield that he isn't the only one that this is happening to. The only thing I could complain about this movie is that the ending did feel a bit rushed, like it was building a lot of tension for very little payoff. But it is a minor nitpick and wouldn't steer me away from watching it again, and shouldn't steer you away from checking it out if you already haven't. Number 2, Pawn Sacrifice. Director Eddie Zwink, who you may know from his other movies like Legends of the Fall, The Last Samurai, and Blood Diamond, brings us this riveting true story about American Bobby Fischer and his chess match with the Soviet Union's Boris Spassky in the 1972 World Chess Championships. This movie was written by Steve Knight, who wrote the awesome BBC series Peaky Blinders, as well as movie scripts for Eastern Promises and Locke, which I've already reviewed on this channel. Tobey Maguire is back in his first leading role since Spider-Man 3 and offers more crazy eyes than you can handle. His performance as one of the most celebrated chess players of all time is one of the best of his career, which seems to be a trend on this list.
What are you talking about? This was it! What do you think I've been working the past 10 years of my life for? I was gonna be the youngest world champ in the history of the game! That's over now! They stole it from me, Carmine! They took it! That was today! Today!
Many stories and rumors quickly spread about how paranoid Bobby Fischer was during the 1972 World Chess Championships, and this movie really highlights the state of mind that he was in during the competition.
We have a NATO base out there, and I asked for the Marines to guard me. They said no to me. They said no, Joan. Do you hear that? You could put stuff in my food to mess with my mind, you know?
He was under a lot of pressure for the United States to win because his opponent was from the Soviet Union and it was during the Cold War. The same pressure was being applied by the Soviets to Boris Spassky, who was excellently portrayed by Liv Schreiber. The matchup was getting national and international news coverage. Since the countries were feuding at the time, each side felt that if their player could beat the other country's player, it would prove intellectual superiority to the winner's country. Sort of similar to Rocky IV, where Rocky fights Ivan Drago, except this really happened. For being a movie about such a boring game like chess, it really keeps you hooked. It never really focuses on the dynamic of the game, but rather the state of mind that players of this caliber tend to develop. There's one scene in particular that shows Spassky acting just as paranoid and as crazy as Fischer.
Товарищ Бубнов, товарищ Геллер, товарищ Брежнев. Я же знаю, что прослушка включена. Я так не выиграю.
I can't figure out why nobody went to see this movie. It only grossed $6 million at the box office, which is less than a third of its $19 million budget. If you were alive during the 70s, this movie will take you back to a time when the world stopped for a chess game. And finally, for my pick for the most underrated movie of 2015, It Follows. This is a horror movie that has a premise that sounds so absurd that most people that heard what it was about, including myself, dismissed it immediately. But after I sat down to see it, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. This movie is about something that follows you. It's never really explained what it is, it just follows you.
You're not gonna believe me. And I need you to remember what I'm saying. This thing, it's gonna follow you. It could look like someone you know, or it could be a stranger in a crowd. Whatever helps it get close to you.
The only way to get rid of it is to have sex with somebody. Our main character gets it, and it's up to her and her group of friends to figure out how to beat it. The cinematography does a great job of using extreme wide-angle shots as well as long, deep shots to convey the feeling of spatial openness. I found myself looking in the background of shots because I was starting to feel just as paranoid as the characters were. There's so much to enjoy about this movie, especially if you're a fan of horror films. First of all, the music in the movie has a very 80s feel to it, and reminds me a lot of the music from Halloween. They used a lot of the same tropes of horror movies from that time as well. For example, all the parents being gone and a group of teenagers being terrorized is very similar to A Nightmare on Elm Street. And the idea of a monster that follows you slowly, but no matter how much you run will always catch you, was directly inspired by Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. This movie reminds me a lot of Cabin in the Woods, as it uses a lot of stereotypical horror movie traits, but does it in a way that seems more like a love letter to them and less like a ripoff. As I said in one of my Blu-ray updates when I bought this movie, this is the kind of story that should be watched with a group of people. You could enjoy it plenty if you watched alone, but there is a different kind of enjoyment that you get from discussing what you would do in the situation and how you would handle some of the same scenarios that the characters are in. But this movie raises more questions than answers and instills the most primal kind of fear in you while also being delightfully entertaining, and that's why I think it's the most underrated movie of 2015. But what do you guys think? Were there some movies that you think deserve to be on this list? What other underrated movies came out in 2015? Make sure to comment down below and remember to subscribe to my channel for more countdowns, movie reviews, and Blu-ray updates. Thanks for watching.